First up, joining me this week is someone making his 68th pod appearance. Welcome back to Mr. Connor Cronin.
Good to be back. 68. They're creeping up, creeping ever
Indeed,
closer
indeed.
to a number that we won't talk about the next time I'm on.
Absolutely. We'll skip straight to 70. And also with us is someone who is a shoe-in to win the best newcomer gong at the end of season awards. And that's not only because he's the only newcomer this season, he's now earning cap number 9. Hello once more to Mr. Hugo Gordon.
Thanks very much for having me back again, Jeff.
Great to see you. Great to have you both on. Okay, listen, let's crack on with our feature match of the week. Here's the generic 50-word summary of what happened on Saturday. Leinster overpowered Glasgow 37-19 in the United Rugby Championship semi-final at Aviva Stadium, securing a place in the final. Dan Sheehan and Jamie Osborne each scored twice, with Thomas Clarkson and Kieran Frawley adding to the tally. Glasgow managed some late tries, but Leinster's dominance in attack and defence proved decisive. Now, the lads have picked out some key themes from the match, and we're going to start with Connor, who's going to be harping on just how important it was for Leinster to have both Dan Sheehan and Tommy O'Brien back in the starting lineup.
Yeah, and I think so. I know you guys were talking last week, and you were talking about who, if other players weren't available, who'd be a good captain and that kind of thing. And I think the fact that Dan's name got mentioned a couple of times is a real measure of the kind of player he is. You can see it in the first 15 seconds of this game, how important both of those players are. Because off the kickoff, once the tackle's made, it's Tommy O'Brien with a turnover. It's Dan Sheehan standing a little bit to infield of that, saying to the ref, "Sir, sir, sir." And suddenly the whistle goes, and Dan's the first man running over to pat Tommy on the back and applaud him and say, "Well done, that's a great job." Go another couple of minutes into the play, and you've got Dan off the back of a line out. He throws a loose pass, which Tommy O'Brien cleans up really, really well. And then it's only a couple more phases before it's Dan going over for a try himself. When you look at just these first couple of minutes, when you see the work rate, when you see the desire, when you see how much they wanted to be involved, that's when you get a real measure for how important it was to have them on the pitch. Add to that Dan's leadership, and it's so good to have the two of them firing and firing well. For every Leinster player, when they're on form, it's very hard to play against them when they're doing all the good things right. And I watched the match back with that view, where I was just kind of watching, going, okay, what's Dan doing? What's Tommy doing? And in every play, I'm watching what's going on. And I ended up setting up a little set of lists for myself, and I was ticking off where, if I saw something different, I was writing it in, and if I saw it again, I was doing little hatches, so I knew how often it was going right. And Dan had, by my count, and I could be wrong, it was either 13 or 14 lineouts. I might have missed one while I was in the middle of doing a job during the rewatch. Sorry, that's 13 or 14 lineouts that were our throw, and we won. That were clean ball. We had 2 that Glasgow contested and took from us. But it wasn't off a bad throw, or it wasn't a bad call. It's just, I think Glasgow read the line out well. But that means that we had 15 or 16 well-taken lineouts that, okay, yeah, we lost a couple of them, but that's a much better ratio than we've been working on for the rest of the season. Coming into this game, we had 50 lost lineouts. We lost 2, yeah, but we won far, far more than we won. And we won clean ball. And that's a massive part of what Dan does for us. Other important little contributions he makes, disrupting clean ruck. So, making a mess out of Glasgow ball legally, or it must be legal, otherwise we'd be penalised for it, right? Offloading. He's got a couple of offloads in the game. Shooting up in defence, something we've watched Gary Ringrose do a lot this year. Clearly, he had a big role in that this weekend. One in particular forces a horrific pass that results in us getting a line out. We've got him hunting for turnovers. We've got breaks down the wing after a line out. We've got carries. We've got 2 tries. We've got positive driving mauls. We've got him rushing up box kicks. We've got him making yards after contact. And all that's in 54 minutes.
Is that all?
He was only on the pitch for 54 minutes.
I know.
But everything, like as I watched, I don't think other than the 2 lost lineouts, there's anything Dan was doing where you'd look at it and say, okay, we have a negative loss on that interaction. Or a net loss, I should say. Sorry, not a negative loss. Negative is a loss. But where you'd say you have a net loss on the interaction. Almost everything is a positive impact on how Leinster get to play and how we get to move forward with the ball. And then I did the same with Tommy O'Brien. You know, I marked he's running decoy lines. He's holding up a tackler for a maul. He's got the turnover I already mentioned that was very responsible for us getting close enough to getting the try in the first place. We've got him taking high ball. We've got him where he doesn't take it cleanly, knocking it back on our side. Where it's their high ball, we have him contesting and making it difficult for the Glasgow players. He's got tackles. He's got kick and chase. He's got counter rucking and rucking over. One in particular that is really present in my mind from the rewatch, where he's there just driving through the Glasgow ruck and driving over it, which results in Dan being the one to pick up the ball afterwards. I say he's putting pressure on their kick chase. They end up spilling one where he's going for it and making it so difficult for their back 3 that they end up knocking it on into touch. And we've got the line out. He's got offloads. He's got a dominant tackle. I remember as I was sitting north stand, so I was watching the game further away from me for lots of the second half. And in the lead up to a great break that Tommy has in the second half, I was watching the play because the play started as I was looking at it on the right-hand side of the pitch. And as the ball comes out, you can see him come the whole way around the back of the field. It was actually incredible to watch from that vantage point. You know, from the Hugo Keenan view, as he goes running around the back of everybody to eventually get into space where he's then cutting back infield, making a break. He's got smart decisions. He knows when to contest. He knows when to, you see it for Frawley's try. He knows when to say, I'm not making that. I'll take the contact. There's space for somebody else to make this try happen. And instead of waiting for somebody to come and rescue the ball, he's quick enough to realize, there's the man I'm waiting for. And up pops the offload. There is so much good in what Tommy O'Brien is doing. We've said it for a couple of seasons. A clean bill of health for a full season. And let's see what he can do. God, he can do some good stuff, can't he? And I think the difference having players like that in the squad, the difference they make, because if you want to talk about leadership, you lead by example for a lot of these guys. You know, shouting at a fella saying, you screwed up, what are you going to do about it, isn't as effective as saying, you screwed up, but I'm here to pick up the pieces for you. Or, you've done well, and I'm here to tell you how good you've done. Those kinds of leadership moments that you get from Dan and Tommy's moments of just keep doing, focus on the next job. What's my next positive impact? I won't say either of them had a perfect game. You know, nobody ever has a perfect game. But if you're ranking Leinster's players at the weekend, like I thought before I'd seen the watch back, I thought Tommy O'Brien would have been a very, very good shout for player of the match. And after the watch back, Dan, if they'd given it to Dan Sheehan instead, I wouldn't have said that was a bad decision at all. Like it's as I say, so much good in what both of them do. And it's not even, I mean, there's some of the stuff that Sheehan does, and you look at it and you say, well, that's why he's first choice hooker and not Kelleher. And then you watch the game back and you see Kelleher breaking through defenders and making 25 meters out on the wing, which is where you'd often see Sheehan lurking every now and then. So it's not that it's not even a thing where I'm saying he's so much better in his position. It's just having him on the pitch is so much better for Leinster, because the the positivity he brings, the attitude, the mental skills, the willingness to put himself on the line in some spaces, and the same with Tommy O'Brien. What he brings sets such a positive sense of how the players want to play, sets such a positive example for all the others. And I think, it's like a rising tide lifts all boats, and the lads are definitely a rising tide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were going into this game like in our WhatsApp group or whatever. I mean, we were anxious to say the least. And I mean, it was justified anxious. I mean, that's going back a good few weeks. It's still it's not just carrying from that Northampton game, but also from the performances since. Even though we've been winning, but there's still been question marks. And when we did a preview with Kigo, we looked at the starting lineup, and the one good thing was that both those two players in particular, Dan was on the bench last week against Scarlets, and this time he was starting, and Tommy O'Brien, who was under that dreaded further assessment required a heading in the injury report, he ended up in the starting lineup, and that was really positive. And so what we wanted to see from Leinster was something positive, literally from the kickoff. Now, maybe not this literally, the way it ended up. It was the Glasgow kicked off. We kicked off, but we chased it down. Tommy O'Brien was over it for a jackal, like very first from the restart, penalty into the corner. Now, successful line out, good Glasgow defense in that series. They held us out for like multiple double-digit phases, but we still persevered. And then there was Dan Sheehan. So literally, from the very kickoff, the two of them made an impact. And like you say, it's the effect they have on other players. You saw, like in Dan's case, he didn't play the full match, and then on comes Ronan Keller. You saw a big run from him towards the end of the match. It's like he brings up his game as well. And then, like you say, Tommy O'Brien, he inspires players. I think one player that loves playing with them is Jordy Barrett. We've noticed how in previous matches, Jordy would actually, when he gets the ball and he gets a bit of broken play run, he'd go running towards Tommy's wing. He says, I'm gonna bring the play over to here, get this guy involved, because game recognizes game kind of thing. Tommy is like he's in that kind of form, and it's amazing to see. So we'll talk about other players' performances. It wasn't just the two of them, but it was good to see not only their names in the starting lineup, because they can have such an influence, but such an immediate impact on the game. Well, what did you think, Hugo?
Yeah, so they're both just remarkable players, and having them both back in the starting lineup for this one, as you say, was just so important. Just starting with Dan in particular, and just a few kind of numbers that jumped out at me when I was looking at this one. First of all, in that passage of play, between when he throws the ball in from the line out in that opening attack that we have, so not including that touch of the ball, he touches the ball 5 times in the next minute and 45 seconds and clears a ruck. If you watch it back, he is involved in basically every single little passage of play, and it's remarkable the speed at which he's coming in. When he picks up the ball, he's making a yard or two with every single carry. He's hitting rucks. He's back to his feet again, and just the sheer kind of hunger and the sheer determination to be involved at all those passages of play was just an incredible kind of start to the game. And it really was a kind of a real just boost straight off the starting gun. Couple more numbers. He now has 7 tries in 5 matches in the URC this season. That's including only 3 starts. He's averaging a try every 25 minutes of URC game time this season, which is ridiculous. If you expand it out to all tournaments, including the Champions Cup and the Heineken and the Six Nations, he has 14 tries and 13 appearances, or a try every 44 minutes. He is an extraordinary player. He does seem to be getting better with every single passing year. If you'd asked me this time last year, I'm not sure that I necessarily would have said that he was the best hooker in the world. I think there were some definitely great other candidates. If you ask me right now, I think he's the standout. If you're putting a World 15 together, it's him every day at number 2. He is some player.